The galaxy had always been a place of chaos. Wars, rivalries, and constant struggles for power were common, but none of the alien species had ever truly expected Earth to be the one to stir up the storm. Humanity, once considered weak and insignificant by the galactic community, was about to surprise everyone in the worst way imaginable. It all began with a mysterious signal, an unknown frequency that echoed across the stars. At first, no one paid much attention to it. The XL-Car, a powerful and ancient race that had ruled vast stretches of the galaxy for centuries, were the first to pick it up. They were used to hearing strange noises and uncharted signals, but something about this one felt different. Something about it sent a chill down their spines. "We've been monitoring this sector for years," Commander Vekar, one of the XL-Car's top officers, said as he stared at the readings. "There's never been anything like this." The signal was unlike anything the XL-Car had encountered. It wasn't a call for help, nor was it a distress beacon. Instead, it seemed like a challenge, a defiance, a taunting, even. But more than that, it came from the small, unimportant planet known as Earth, a planet that XL-Car had never paid much attention to. Their scouts had noted it as a primitive world, with humans fighting each other over scraps of land and resources. They didn't think the planet posed any threat to their vast empire. But this signal, this was different. "We should ignore it," suggested Tellan, one of the younger officers, trying to dismiss it as another random signal from a backwater planet. "It's probably just some human trying to get attention." But Vekar shook his head. The signal had a strange pattern, something purposeful about it. Something felt wrong. "No," he replied, his voice calm but with an edge of concern. "It's not like anything we've seen before. We should investigate further." So the XL-Car sent a small fleet to Earth, hoping to find out what was causing the disturbance. They thought it would be an easy mission. After all, humans were primitive creatures, unable to stand up to the might of the XL-Car empire. They were sure that this was just some elaborate prank or a miscommunication. They couldn't have been more wrong. As the XL-Car fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, the humans on the ground had no idea what was coming. The world was still oblivious to the danger it was about to face. Yet, hidden deep within the Earth's core, the humans had something that would turn the tide of the upcoming conflict. While the aliens arrived in full force, the humans were ready. They had known for years that their peaceful existence might one day be shattered by a war they had never sought. But they had been preparing, silently, in the background. They had been watching the galaxy, learning from the XL-Car's conquests, and studying the creatures that roamed the stars. What the XL-Car didn't know was that humanity had been waiting for this moment. The XL-Car landed on Earth with ease, expecting to see an army of poorly equipped soldiers, unprepared for the overwhelming power of their fleet. But as their ships touched the surface, something strange happened. At first, the humans seemed unimpressed. They didn't panic. They didn't run. They didn't even try to fight. Instead, they calmly watched as the XL-Car advanced into their cities. But it wasn't fear in their eyes. It was something else, a calm determination. In one of the major cities, the XL-Car sent a group of soldiers to check the area. As they moved through the city, the buildings and streets were eerily quiet. No resistance, no sign of the humans anywhere. It was as if the city had been abandoned. Then suddenly, the silence was broken by a loud roar, something massive moving through the air. The XL-Car turned in shock. What was it? Was it a new weapon? Were the humans hiding some kind of super-powered technology they hadn't discovered? Before they could react, a massive figure burst from the ground, tearing through the street. It was enormous, bigger than anything the XL-Car had ever seen. The creature roared, shaking the earth beneath it. It wasn't a weapon. It was a creature, one of Earth's ancient predators, awakened and ready to fight. The XL-Car froze, unsure of what they were facing. This was no ordinary animal. It was like something out of a nightmare, a creature so powerful that even their strongest warriors would struggle against it. As the XL car prepared to fight, the humans appeared from the shadows, standing calmly before their unexpected guests. They didn't seem afraid. In fact, they seemed oddly confident. The creature didn't attack them. It stood still, as if it recognized them. And then, in an even more shocking turn, the humans began to feed the creature as if it was their pet. The XL car were confused. How could the humans control such a beast? How could they command it, tame it, and use it to their advantage? They realized then that they had made a grave mistake. The humans were no longer the weaklings they once thought they were. They were a force to be reckoned with. The real war had just begun. The XL car were shaken, unsure of what to make of the scene unfolding before them. Their soldiers had stood in disbelief, their minds struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. They had never faced such creatures before, creatures from a planet they thought was nothing more than a backwater world. Yet in front of them, the humans had unleashed the unthinkable. The massive creature, once the apex predator of Earth, now stood still, accepting the humans' strange display of power. It was as if the humans knew exactly how to control it, how to tame it. This was not the primitive, war-torn planet that XL car had expected. This was something entirely different, something far more dangerous. As the XL car cautiously moved forward, a deep rumble echoed across the city. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and then, in an instant, they saw what they had feared. More of Earth's ancient predators emerged from the depths of the earth. Towering, ferocious creatures, each one more powerful than the last, all under the control of the humans. But this wasn't just about animals. The XL car's shock deepened when they noticed something else, something far more terrifying. In the distance, they saw figures emerging from hidden structures, figures clad in armor that glowed faintly with strange energy. These weren't just ordinary humans. They were part of something far greater, something the XL car hadn't known existed. From deep within the earth, long-forgotten guardians of humanity had awakened. The truth was beginning to dawn on the invaders. The humans were not helpless. They were part of a much larger force, one that had been lying in wait for centuries. While the XL car had been too busy conquering and expanding their empire, the humans had been preparing for the very moment when their planet would be threatened. Beneath the surface of Earth, hidden in ancient forgotten caverns, humanity had built fleets of ships, ships powerful enough to rival even the XL car's might. These ships were not made of ordinary materials. They were constructed from metals and resources long thought to be lost, crafted by a civilization that had thrived before the rise of the Galactic Empire. And now, these ancient ships were coming to life. As the first of the ships surfaced from beneath the Earth's crust, the XL car's eyes widened. It was like nothing they had ever seen. The ships were massive, their surfaces shimmering with strange, glowing runes. The XL car had never encountered technology like this before. Alien, ancient, and yet undeniably powerful. The humans weren't just standing by, waiting for their predators to do the work for them. They were activating their dormant fleets, preparing to strike back. The humans had been planning this for far longer than the XL car could have ever imagined. In one of the hidden command centers, deep underground, a group of humans watched as their fleet began to rise. Their faces were calm, determined. They had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the right time to reveal their power. They had always known that the galaxy would come to Earth one day, but they were prepared. "Ready the fleet," Commander Ilara said softly, her voice filled with quiet confidence. "It's time." On the surface, the skies began to darken as the first of the human ships took flight, soaring into the atmosphere. They were not like anything the XL car had seen before. They were sleek, fast, and powerful, with weapons capable of devastating the strongest of enemy forces. Each ship was a living testament to humanity's ingenuity. The XL car tried to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had already gained the upper hand. And now, with their fleet in the sky and their ancient creatures on the ground, they were ready to fight back. The battle that followed was nothing like the XL car had anticipated. The humans had turned the tide in an instant. The XL car fleet found itself being overwhelmed, their ships outmaneuvered by the humans' advanced technology. And on the ground, Earth's predators, creatures that had once been feared by every living thing, ripped through the XL car's ground forces with ease. As the XL car retreated, trying to regroup and strategize, they realized the magnitude of their mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. This was no longer a simple conquest. It was a fight for survival. The war had only just begun, but the humans had already proven that they were not to be trifled with. Earth's guardians were awake, and the galaxy was about to learn what humanity was truly capable of. The XL car were in retreat, but their pride was far from broken. They had suffered losses, yes, but they were a powerful species, and no one had ever truly threatened them on this scale. Even now, as they withdrew to regroup, their minds raced to formulate a new strategy. They had faced many enemies, but these humans, they were different. There was something unnervingly resilient about them. Commander Ilara watched from her ship's bridge as the first reports came in. The humans were winning, and that alone sent shockwaves through her. The invaders had come with the intent to conquer and control, yet now they were on the defensive. Earth was a planet that had once been dismissed as insignificant, but the XL car had learned a hard lesson. Never underestimate the unexpected. What are they? A lieutenant asked, breaking Ilara's thoughts. His voice was filled with disbelief. How can they control such creatures? Ilara's gaze hardened. Those creatures were never just beasts. They were part of Earth's plan, part of humanity's long-held power. She turned to the communications officer. Send a message to the fleet. No more underestimations. We need everything we've got if we're going to survive this. Meanwhile, on the ground, humanity's forces continued their relentless march forward. Earth's predators, once feared by all who walked the planet, were now weapons of war, but the humans did not rely solely on them. The dormant fleet had come to life, and with it, the humans' ancient technology had proven to be a match for the XL car's might. Commander Ilara's ship began its descent, moving toward the front lines of the conflict. She had witnessed firsthand how Earth's creatures had torn through the XL car's forces, but she knew that the war was far from over. As her ship hovered above the battlefield, she could see the chaos below. The ground was littered with wreckage, both human and XL car. She didn't have the luxury of time to watch the carnage unfold. Earth's defenders were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting to protect the very future of their planet. Every move, every decision, could make the difference between victory and defeat. Prepare the counterattack, Ilara ordered. We hit them with everything we have. The fleet's engines roared to life as the ships took off into the sky once more, their weapons glowing with energy. But this time, they weren't just fighting against the predators on the ground. They were facing an entirely different kind of enemy, an enemy that had risen from the depths of Earth itself. Up above, the sky had become a battlefield, and humanity's forces, with their ancient ships, were taking the fight to the XL car with unrelenting force. The ships were faster, more agile, and far better equipped for the fight than the invaders had anticipated. Each ship was an extension of the humans themselves, carefully crafted to be a reflection of humanity's will to survive. The XL car fought back, their weapons discharging with terrifying force, but they found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer power and speed of the human ships. What had once seemed like a simple conquest had turned into a nightmare for the invaders. On the ground, the predators roamed freely, crushing anything in their path. The XL car had expected these creatures to be little more than animals, just another obstacle to clear. But now, they were an unstoppable force. The ground shook with every movement as the beasts tore through the XL car's defenses. But even as the tide began to turn in humanity's favor, The XL car refused to yield. They would not go down without a fight. Their forces regrouped, retreating into the shadows and drawing up new plans to outsmart the humans. They had underestimated Earth before, but they would not make that mistake again. And yet there was something even more dangerous lurking in the depths of Earth's hidden chambers. Something that had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the final act of this ancient conflict to unfold. It was clear now that this was not just a battle for survival. This was a test of wills, and the outcome would shake the galaxy for centuries to come. Commander Ilara knew one thing. The war had only just begun. The night was dark, and Earth's skies hummed with tension. The battle had raged for days, but humanity's forces, though relentless, had faced an enemy that refused to surrender. The XL car were fierce, cunning, and seemingly invincible. Commander Ilara had watched her fleet grow weaker with every passing hour, and her mind was clouded with uncertainty. On the ground, the situation had become increasingly desperate. Earth's creatures had struck fear into the hearts of the invaders, but even they couldn't fight back the tide of cell car technology. The battleships in orbit circled the planet, and the sound of explosions rang out across the land. Yet, amidst all the chaos, a quiet rumble echoed from beneath the surface. It was a sound that only a few had ever heard before, a sound that had been long buried in the depths of history. But now, as the cell car's reign of terror continued, it was awakening once more. In an ancient, hidden underground facility, humanity's secret weapon stirred. This weapon had been dormant for centuries, far too dangerous to be unleashed until the very moment it was needed. And that moment had come. The ground beneath Earth's surface trembled as massive machinery powered up. Systems that had long been shut down began to hum with life, and a soft glow illuminated the darkness. The human fleet in orbit was unaware of what was happening below, but the sound of those ancient engines was unmistakable to those who knew their history. Meanwhile, back on the surface, the humans were not just fighting with weapons. They were fighting with their ingenuity, their grit, and their will to survive. They had always been an adaptable species, able to learn and evolve in the face of adversity. The XL car had learned this the hard way. But as the invaders pressed forward, their confidence began to crack. They had underestimated Earth once, and now they were about to make that mistake again. Commander Ilara, sitting in her command ship, stared out at the stars. Her mind raced with thoughts of what to do next. The fleet had suffered heavy losses, and there seemed to be no end in sight. She had sent every possible reinforcement to the surface, but nothing seemed to stop humanity's relentless march forward. "Commander," a voice broke through her thoughts. It was her lieutenant. "We've picked up something. It's coming from deep beneath the planet's surface. We think it's something human." Ilara's brow furrowed. She knew Earth had its secrets, but this was something else, something far more dangerous. "Prepare the fleet," Ilara commanded. "Whatever it is, we have to stop it before it's too late." On the surface, the humans had no idea that their secret weapon was about to change the course of the war. The last remaining remnants of Earth's ancient technology were about to be unleashed, and with them, humanity's final stand was set into motion. As the XL car troops pressed closer to Earth's capital, the ground shook again, this time with much more force. Deep beneath the Earth, massive doors began to open. Long-forgotten engines roared to life, and ancient technology, hidden for millennia, was now fully awake. The XL car had thought they were prepared for anything. They had underestimated humans before, and it had cost them dearly. But now, as the underground machinery came online, they would learn just how much they had failed to understand about the planet they sought to conquer. The ground split open in a violent eruption, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. From beneath the surface, a massive structure rose, one that had been designed for a time such as this. It was a machine of unimaginable power, crafted long ago by human hands. Its purpose was clear: to protect Earth at any cost. The XL car were stunned. What they had dismissed as a primitive world now stood before them, with a weapon that could challenge even their most advanced technology. "Commander," the lieutenant called again, his voice trembling with awe. "You need to see this. It's unlike anything we've ever faced." Ilara's eyes widened as she watched the massive structure emerge, its energy fields lighting up the dark sky. Humanity's hidden fleet had already begun its assault from above, but this was something else entirely. This was Earth's final weapon, and it had been waiting in silence for this moment. In the heart of the structure, a human operator stood alone. They were the only one who could control the machine, and the fate of the war now rested on their shoulders. As the XL car retreated in confusion, humanity's weapon began its relentless march forward. The balance of the war had shifted, and for the first time in weeks, Commander Ilara felt the heavy weight of fear in her chest. Earth had risen, and it was not backing down. As Earth's hidden weapon revealed itself to the world, the XL car were thrown into disarray. They had never anticipated this. Humanity's secret fleet, hidden for centuries, suddenly awakened, unleashing a power that they could not comprehend. The massive structure that emerged from the Earth's surface was unlike anything the invaders had seen. Its sheer size alone was enough to make even the bravest of the XL car hesitate. But what struck them even more was the energy it radiated, a force that sent ripples through space and time itself. It was as though the Earth had become a living, breathing entity, one that had been waiting for its moment to strike. The XL car commanders gathered in their war room, their faces grim as they watched the unfolding events. The ship's communication officer stepped forward, his voice tense with urgency. "Commander, the readings are unlike anything we've ever encountered," the officer said, glancing nervously at the control panel. It's human-made, but the energy signatures are off the scale. We need to respond quickly before it gets out of hand." Commander Zarek, the leader of the XL car forces, stood motionless, staring at the holographic display in front of him. He had always prided himself on his ability to predict every move his enemies made. But this was different. Earth had never shown its true potential, not until now. For the first time since the invasion began, Zarek felt the weight of doubt press down on him. Could they win this war? Could they defeat a species that had hidden such incredible power for so long? Back on Earth, Commander Ilara's pulse quickened as the weapon began its devastating march across the battlefield. The human fleet, now in full coordination with the newly awakened structure, was moving faster and more strategically than ever before. What was once a losing battle had suddenly turned into a war of attrition, with the XL car being forced to retreat at every turn. But Ilara knew that the XL car were not easily defeated. They would regroup, and they would come for Earth with everything they had. The question was, could humanity's newfound weapon hold them off long enough to turn the tide of the war? As the massive structure advanced, its powerful weapons fired in precise waves, dismantling XL car ships with ease. The invaders tried to retaliate, launching missiles and unleashing energy blasts, but they were no match for the human-made fortress that seemed to absorb every attack without flinching. From above, the human fleet engaged in a fierce aerial battle with the XL car warships. The air was alive with the sound of gunfire and explosions, but humanity was no longer on the defensive. They had become the aggressor, forcing the XL car to fight a war on two fronts, on the ground and in the sky. The XL car had never encountered a species like this before. They had assumed that their advanced technology and vast fleets would be enough to crush the human resistance. But the humans, as they always had, found a way to adapt, to fight back with cunning and innovation. "Commander," a voice interrupted Zarek's thoughts. It was his lieutenant, and his expression was one of deep concern. "The structure, it's getting closer. It's advancing at an alarming rate." Zarek clenched his fists, his mind racing. He had seen this before. An enemy that refused to break, that kept pushing forward no matter the odds. He knew that the XL car could not afford to lose this fight. They would either crush humanity once and for all or face total annihilation. The XL car fleet adjusted its tactics, now focusing all their firepower on the human-made structure. But it was no use. For every shot they landed, the structure seemed to adapt, growing stronger, more resilient. It was as though it had been designed with this very scenario in mind, a weapon made specifically to counter any enemy that dared threaten Earth. As the ground shook and explosions rang out across the battlefield, Ilara knew that the war was far from over. The XL car were powerful, but humanity had one advantage they could not overcome: the will to survive. The human spirit, unyielding and resourceful, had driven them to create a weapon that had turned the tide of the battle. But now, as the final push began, Ilara could feel the weight of the burden pressing down on her. She was no longer just fighting for survival. She was fighting for the future of Earth and every living being on it. Back on the battlefield, the hum of the weapon's engines grew louder as it powered up its final phase. The XL car were running out of options, their ships falling one by one as they desperately tried to regroup. But the tide was turning, and they could feel it. It was no longer a question of if humanity could win. It was a question of how long the XL car could last against the unrelenting force of Earth's hidden weapon. The war was far from over, but humanity had finally shown its true strength. The XL car had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. The battle raged on, but the tides had shifted. For the first time in the war, the XL car were not in control. Their once unstoppable forces were now faltering against a power they had not anticipated. Humanity's secret weapon, the massive structure emerging from Earth, had proven to be more than just a last-ditch defense. It was a force of nature, reshaping the battlefield with every passing moment. From the command center aboard the structure, Ilara watched the chaos unfold. The XL car fleet, once poised to dominate Earth, now found itself retreating. Their ships were being torn apart by waves of energy blasts and precision strikes from the structure. It seemed invincible, as if no weapon in the galaxy could harm it. The structure absorbed everything that came its way, reflecting its attackers' power back at them with terrifying accuracy. Ilara's eyes narrowed as she monitored the XL car's movements. Their retreat was tactical, she knew. They were regrouping, preparing for a final push to try and break through Earth's defenses. But Ilara was ready. Humanity's forces had a weapon the XL car didn't understand yet: sheer determination. "Commander, they're regrouping," one of her officers reported. "They've started deploying their remaining fleet in a coordinated attack. It looks like they're planning to overwhelm us with sheer numbers." Ilara nodded grimly. The XL car might have the numbers, but humanity had something far more important: strategy. The humans had already anticipated this kind of counterattack and had devised a plan to meet it head-on. It was time to end this once and for all. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, the XL car commanders were beginning to realize that their plans were crumbling. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. Commander Zarek, who had once been confident of victory, now found himself in an unfamiliar position, on the defensive. His forces were scattering, overwhelmed by humanity's unexpected resilience. He watched in disbelief as one of his finest warships was destroyed in a matter of seconds by a concentrated strike from Earth's structure. The ship had been a symbol of the XL car's power, and now it was nothing but debris floating in space. Zarek's mind raced. He had always prided himself on being able to adapt, to find a way to win, no matter the odds. But this was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The humans had a weapon that was seemingly unstoppable, a weapon they had kept hidden from the galaxy for centuries. Back in the command center, Ilara's fingers danced across the holographic controls, coordinating the final stages of the battle. The human fleet was now fully aligned with the structure, and together they were pushing back the XL car at every turn. Earth had become an unstoppable force, and the XL car were finding out just how dangerous humanity could be when cornered. "Prepare the final phase," Ilara said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We take them out once and for all." The officers around her worked quickly, executing her orders with precision. They had come this far, and they weren't about to stop now. The final phase involved activating the full power of the Hidden Fleet, an array of ancient weapons designed not just to defend, but to obliterate any enemy foolish enough to challenge Earth. As the structure powered up, a deep hum echoed through the command center, and the air seemed to vibrate with energy. The XL were about to feel the full force of humanity's hidden might. In space, the XL fleet was moving into position, preparing for their final assault. Zarak gave the command, and his ships moved in formation, intent on breaking through the human defenses. But they were too late. A bright flash of light erupted from the structure, and the first wave of Selkar ships was engulfed in a burst of energy so intense that it momentarily blinded everyone watching. The ships disintegrated in an instant, their remains scattered across the void of space. It was a devastating display of power, one that left the Selkar commanders speechless. Zarek's heart sank as he watched the destruction unfold. His fleet was crumbling, his forces helpless in the face of Earth's unimaginable weapon. The XL had never faced an enemy like this before, one that could strike back with such overwhelming force. "Commander, we can't hold on much longer," one of Zarek's officers reported. "The human structure is unstoppable. We're losing ships at an alarming rate." Zarek clenched his fists in frustration. His people had always prided themselves on their military might, but they were no match for the force humanity had unleashed. The war was slipping through his fingers, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. On Earth, Ilara stood tall, watching the destruction unfold on the holographic screen in front of her. The tide of the battle was turning in humanity's favor, but she knew the XL would not give up easily. The war wasn't over yet, but they were closer than ever to victory. As the final wave of Selkar ships fell, the sound of victory was palpable. The humans had fought with everything they had, and now they were on the verge of securing their future. But even as the battle raged on, Ilara could feel the weight of what had happened. The lives lost, the sacrifices made. Earth's hidden fleet had risen to the challenge, but humanity's true strength had always been its resilience, its ability to push forward no matter the cost. And as the XL fleet scattered in defeat, Ilara knew that Earth had won this battle. But the war was far from over. The last remnants of the Selkar fleet, broken and scattered across space, were retreating in disarray. But Commander Zarak, despite the crushing defeat, refused to accept that his forces had been bested. His pride, his very identity as a warrior, would not allow him to admit failure. He rallied his remaining fleet, preparing for one last assault on Earth's mysterious and mighty fleet. Ilara watched their movements closely. The battle was far from over, but the humans had turned the tide. Their victory was within reach, but only if they kept up the pressure. The hidden fleet, now fully activated and in control, had proven its power, an unimaginable weapon that no one had seen coming. Yet Ilara knew the war wasn't just about weapons. It was about survival, and humanity would do whatever it took to protect Earth. "Commander Ilara," one of her officers interrupted, "the XL are preparing for a final assault. They're trying to regroup for a counterattack. Should we prepare for another strike?" Ilara's face was stoic, her mind calculating. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They couldn't afford to let their guard down now. "Activate the defensive grid," she ordered. "We'll give them one last chance to surrender. If they refuse, we end this." On the battlefield, the XL were organizing what little remained of their forces. They had underestimated humanity from the start. But now it was too late to change course. Zarek's fleet, battered and broken, began to advance again, desperate for victory, desperate to show that they were not weak. Commander Zarek's voice crackled over the communication channel, filled with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Humans, you may have won this day, but we will return. You cannot defeat the XL. We will rise again, and you will fall. Ilara looked at the message and felt no fear. The XL car had spoken too many times of their superiority, but it was clear that they had failed to understand humanity's true strength. She stepped forward, the weight of command on her shoulders, and spoke with unwavering resolve. Your empire may be vast, Zarak, but it is nothing compared to the will of humanity. We will not fall. Earth will stand, and we will protect it with everything we have. In space, the final confrontation was unfolding. The XL car launched the remaining fleet in a desperate bid to break through humanity's defenses, but they were met with a wall of firepower. The massive structure, once dormant, now radiated with energy, every shot from its weapons sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The humans had created a force so powerful that nothing could stand against it. The XL car ships came closer, but the structure was ready. It unleashed a barrage of weapons that tore through their formations. One by one, the ships were struck down. The sheer magnitude of the destruction was overwhelming, and the XL car's once proud fleet was disintegrating before their eyes. Zarak watched in horror as his fleet was decimated. His ships, once the envy of the galaxy, now burned like fireflies in the vast emptiness of space. For all their might, for all their technology, the XL car were no match for humanity's secret weapon. He had miscalculated, and now his people were paying the price. Desperation began to settle in. There was no escape, no way out. His forces were gone, and Earth's fleet was only growing stronger. The humans had not just fought with strength, they fought with purpose. The fight was not for victory alone, it was for survival. Zarak knew he had no choice. His pride could no longer protect him or his people. He gave the order to retreat. It was the only way to save what little remained of his fleet. It was a bitter defeat, but it was all that was left. Back on Earth, Ilara watched the XL car retreat. The final victory was in sight. The massive structure, now fully operational and the heart of humanity's defense, had done its job. It had pushed back the greatest threat Earth had ever faced. But there would be no celebrations yet. The war had taken its toll, and the cost was heavy. As the XL car scattered, defeated and broken, Ilara allowed herself a moment of relief. They had won. Earth was safe, for now. The hidden fleet had risen to defend humanity, and its power had proven to be unmatched. But the galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, and Ilara knew that peace would never be permanent. There would always be new threats, new challenges to face. The war was over, but the fight for Earth's future had only just begun. We've won today, Ilara said softly, her voice filled with both triumph and sorrow. But there will always be another battle, and humanity will always rise to meet it. And with that, Earth's hidden fleet stood victorious, ready to defend their home, no matter what the galaxy threw at them next.